My name is Linda Rangel, and at 25 years old, my world shifted with a single voicemail. It was 7:42 p.m. on a Thursday when the message arrived. No greeting, no small talk, just my father's clipped tone, cold as if he were dictating a memo. Don't bother coming to the family reunion. We're cutting ties. 18 words, 18 syllables, if you count the pause before he hung up. I replayed it once. Not because I doubted what I'd heard, but because some part of me expected to feel more. Anger, heartbreak, betrayal. Instead, all I felt was stillness. Like a part of me had been quietly bracing for this moment all along, waiting for confirmation of what I already knew. If you've ever been betrayed by the very people who should have been your greatest supporters, you know that kind of silence. I'm the youngest of two. My father, Warren Rangel, built Rangel Autoari from nothing. He started as a mechanic, grew into a franchise owner, then expanded into a regional chain operator. My older brother, Rhett, was everything he ever wanted in an heir: loud, charming, reckless. And me, I was the one who kept the lights on. Quietly, efficiently, invisibly. That night, I didn't call back. I didn't ask why. I didn't even forward the voicemail to my mother, Lynette, who conveniently disappeared whenever business matters got too messy. I just sent 2 words to my father: understood. Then I opened my laptop, logged into the loan portal I hadn't touched in months, and did the one thing they never expected. I removed my name. Not out of rage. Not out of spite. Out of clarity. 2 years earlier, the family business needed a $2.5 million expansion loan. The bank demanded a secondary applicant with impeccable credit. Rhett was drowning in debt. Warren didn't want to risk his personal assets. But me? I had spotless credit and a Harvard MBA. They didn't ask. They simply placed the papers in front of me, pen uncapped, and I signed, because I believed loyalty meant belonging. But sitting at my kitchen table with that voicemail playing in the background, I realized something crucial. They hadn't cut me off that night. They'd just finally admitted what they'd been quietly doing for years. My father didn't love order, as I used to think. He loved control. He built our business and our home the same way, brick by brick, rule by rule, with no room for softness. He had a saying he repeated in front of employees and family alike: "We don't hire outsiders. We raise replacements." And that's all we were. Rhett and I, potential successors. Except Rhett had the swagger Warren respected, the kind of bravado he saw in himself. So Rhett got the praise, the second chances, the freedom. I got the clipboard. By 12, I was logging tire shipments. By 16, I was managing payroll during spring break. No thanks. No recognition. Just the unspoken expectation that I'd always be where the business needed me. Obedient, tireless, invisible. My mother wasn't cruel, but she enabled it. Hosting dinners, folding invoices, smiling through meetings, then pulling me aside afterward with her favorite reminder: "Your father's building something for us. Be grateful, sweetheart." So I was. Or I tried to be. I studied hard. I got my MBA. I even turned down a corporate job in Chicago because my father said, family before ambition. He needed someone reliable to manage the regional expansion. Rhett was busy focusing on vision, so I focused on everything else. When the opportunity for the new headquarters came, I negotiated the lease, landed the best interest rate, and secured a 3-year lock. But the bank wanted a second signer. Rhett couldn't. Warren wouldn't. So they handed me the pen. No explanation, no gratitude, just assumption, and I signed, because I still believed if I proved my loyalty enough, I'd finally earn a seat at the table. But of course, they never said thank you. 2 years later, that loyalty had turned into invisibility, and I mistook silence for peace. The first real crack didn't sound like breaking glass. It sounded like Rhett's laughter. We were in a quarterly budget meeting. Me, Rhett, and Warren. I flagged a $12,000 vendor invoice, duplicated 3 months in a row. Clear error. Or so I thought. "That's from a friend of mine," Rhett said casually, brushing it off. "Let it slide. He gives us good rates elsewhere." I looked to my father, expecting at least a flicker of disapproval. Instead, Warren sipped his coffee and said, "Focus on bigger things, Linda. Stop acting like an outsider." Outsider. The word hit harder than I expected. I wasn't some random hire. I had overseen 4 expansions, renegotiated fleet leases, and kept payroll alive through 2 supply chain disruptions. But the moment I questioned something that didn't involve blind compliance, I became the outsider. After that, the changes came subtly. My access to back-end systems narrowed. First, I lost vendor logins. Then my financial dashboard shifted to read-only. The company card tied to my name expired and was never replaced. Every time I asked, the answer was the same: restructuring, temporary system changes. Don't worry about it. Meanwhile, Rhett got a new standing desk, a Vegas trip labeled Leadership Summit, and a leather office chair that cost more than my first used car. Something inside me shifted, not anger. Not yet. Just a quiet alertness. The kind you feel when your instincts whisper, they are building a door for you. And it only opens one way. So I began keeping copies of everything: spending reports, meeting notes, emails where Rhett copied clients but signed my name. At night, I organized them into a private folder on my computer. I called it Shadow Ledger. At first, I didn't know what I was building, an exit strategy or an alibi, but I knew I had to protect the truth while it was still in my hands. And I had no idea that soon, the truth would shatter everything. The voicemail should have been the end of it. They cut me off, and I should have walked away. But life doesn't always end cleanly. 2 weeks later, my phone buzzed again. This time, not with a voicemail, but with an email alert from the bank. Subject line: loan review, action required. I froze. I hadn't touched that loan portal since the night I withdrew my name. But here it was, an automated warning. Co-signer credit review scheduled. Missing documentation detected. My heart stuttered. Missing documentation? That was impossible, unless someone had gone back into the system after my withdrawal. I logged in, password accepted, 2-factor authentication passed. And then there it was, a new digital signature uploaded in my name. Not mine, Rhett's. He had forged it. For a second, I couldn't breathe. All the stillness I'd felt the night of the voicemail cracked wide open into fire. It wasn't just about invisibility anymore. It was theft. My name, my credit, my future. That night, I didn't sleep. I printed every page, every signature, every timestamp. I put them in a folder, the real version of my shadow ledger. And for the first time in my life, I asked myself a question that terrified me. What if loyalty wasn't a virtue? What if it was a weapon, and I was the one holding the blade against my own throat? The next morning, I walked into headquarters unannounced. The receptionist, a girl Rhett had hired more for her Instagram following than her resume, blinked at me like I was a ghost. "They didn't tell me you were coming," she stammered. "Of course they didn't," I said, and pushed past her. Warren and Rhett were in the conference room, papers spread across the table, Rhett leaning back like a king in his throne. My father's eyes flicked up, narrowing when he saw me. "You're not supposed to be here." I dropped the folder onto the table. Pages spilled out, printouts of the forged documents, side by side with my original withdrawal. "Then explain this," I said. For a moment, silence. Then Rhett laughed, loud, sharp, almost relieved. "Linda, come on. Don't be so dramatic. It's just paperwork. Everyone fudges things sometimes." I looked at my father, waiting, just once, for him to stand on the side of truth. But he didn't even glance at the papers. "Sit down," he said, voice low, commanding. "You're making a scene." Something broke in me then. Not loudly, not violently, just a quiet, irreversible snap. Because in that moment, I understood. They weren't just cutting me out. They were willing to destroy me to keep Rhett untouchable. I didn't sit. I didn't argue. I gathered the papers back into the folder and walked out. Past the receptionist, past the sales floor, past the logo on the wall that bore our family name like a badge of honor. When I got home, I placed the folder in a lockbox. Then I called a lawyer. The days that followed blurred into strategy sessions. The lawyer explained what I already suspected: forged digital signatures, misuse of a co-signer's credit, falsified financial records. If I wanted to, I could press charges that would land Rhett in court and put my father's empire under federal investigation. But pressing charges meant burning it all down, including the employees who had nothing to do with this. People I'd worked beside for years, people who trusted me, so I made a different choice. I started with the bank, quietly, carefully. I presented the documents, the timestamps, the proof that I had withdrawn long before the new signatures appeared. The loan officer's expression shifted from skepticism to alarm as she flipped through the pages. "This is serious," she murmured. "I know," I said. Within weeks, my name was fully cleared. The responsibility shifted back onto the primary applicants, Warren and Rhett. The bank flagged their accounts for review, and suddenly, the empire that looked untouchable began to tremble. Vendors called, credit lines froze, lease negotiations stalled, and through it all, I stayed silent. Until the reunion. Yes, the same reunion I was uninvited from. Word spread that half the family might not attend because of financial tensions, but I went anyway. not to confront them. To watch. The Wrangle family reunions were always grand. Catered tents, rows of gleaming cars, Rhett parading like a prince. But that year, the shine was gone. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Where's the expansion money? Why are suppliers pulling out? Why is Warren so quiet? I stood on the edge of it all, unseen. Just like always. Only this time, invisibility was my armor. Rhett spotted me eventually. His smile faltered. He walked over, drink in hand, leaning close so no one else could hear. "You think you've won?" he hissed. "You think this makes you better than me?" I met his eyes, steady. "No, I think it makes me free." He laughed again, but there was no confidence in it. Just desperation. And in that moment, I realized something else. Revenge wasn't about fire. It wasn't about watching them burn. It was about walking away without ashes on your hands. I left the reunion early. No dramatic exits. No final words. Just silence. The kind that comes when you finally stop fighting to be heard. That was a year ago. Since then, I've built my own consultancy. Small, steady, honest. The kind of business where loyalty isn't a leash, but a choice. Sometimes, late at night, I think about the voicemail. About those 18 words, and I wonder if my father ever replays my reply. Understood, because what he didn't realize was that those words weren't surrender. They were a promise, a line in the sand, and I kept it.